Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Collector Art House, to the Art Van. Someone was asking me recently in the Collector Art House Discord, Mike, what's going on with the Art Van videos? We haven't seen a video in a while. Well, here we are back talking about Gothic. So, as of the time of this recording, we are, 4 days into the Gothic release. We're recording this on a Monday, and Gothic just came out on Friday. And in the first 4 days, we've discovered only 7 Curios from the Gothic set. So, to set some context here, as you guys know, I was really the first person to really dive into the subcategory, the niche chase collectible category of curio cards. I was really into that from the start because I was an early adopter of Sorcery, and I was involved since before the Kickstarter campaign. So I have a lot of historical knowledge. I've done a lot of research on the historical development of the game, and that's really what the essence of Curios was all about in the very early days. So when Alpha came out, or when the Kickstarter campaign was being advertised, there was all this talk in the official main Discord about Curios, this chase card concept. And interestingly, there was also some talk about God packs, but that's a discussion for another day. So with Curios, as advertised in the Kickstarter, they kind of introduced the concept, and they said when they get to the $1 million milestone, they'd introduce this idea of curio cards, which is a special chase category that's really interesting because the company does not officially talk about curios, and they've been true to this vision and this concept since the very beginning, since the very early days. They have never acknowledged what is a curio and what is not a curio. And the idea in that is that it was trying to reinvoke that essence of the old school 90s era and like the pre-internet age or the nascent internet age where it really wasn't a thing to go out and find a deck list and net deck and discover the set online and see all the cards before release. You would enjoy that authentically through the pack and box opening experience if you're opening at a box level. A lot of us were just buying a few packs at a time, right, with our allowance money from mowing the lawns or cleaning the house. So with this curio concept, the idea was we would have to discover these. It was up to the community to discover these unique, interesting chase cards in the set. And the company advertised that as they would. There were some interviews with Eric and stuff, and he would talk about how it would have to do with the historical development of the game, and in some cases, it would be very subtle, minute details where you'd really need to be looking closely to discover what those were. And the beauty of that, in my mind, as an art enthusiast, was that I really love the idea that people really need to study every single detail of the card, even the art concept, and pick up on subtleties and differences in the art. And we've seen that manifest in the game in certain ways. And then also other details like the title, the art concept, the type line text, the game mechanic, perhaps, some of the symbology, and even the flavor text. All of this stuff has been discovered in Curios, and there's been subtleties. Some are more obvious than others. And it's been a really fun aspect of the game. And those have been super valuable because they're also very, very difficult to pull, very rare. You know, the populations on these are thought to be maybe 50 to 100 copies per curio per set. So here we are, about 4 days in the Gothic, and we found, I want to say, about four or five on opening day, the first Friday when Gothic released. And then over the course of the weekend, a few more came to light. And now here we are wondering, is there more? Because in the alpha, beta, and Arthurian Legends sets, there were, over a dozen, about 17 or so curio cards. And here we are at only seven. So there should be a lot more discovery if that were to prevail. And I should caveat, in Arthurian Legends, there was some debate whether the Gilded Knights were curio cards. And now at this point, many think that that was a subset to be differentiated from curios. And there's some reasons for that, but that's another topic I don't want to sidebar too much. So if you look at alpha, there were alpha and beta and Arthurian Legends. There were various types of curios. There was the alternate art cards. So in alpha, and by the way, while you guys are watching this video, go to collectorarthouse.com. Under Collector's Corner, there's a subpage called Curio Cards. And there I have the database and catalog for all sets, all curios, and really deep dive details and supporting articles on how you discover those, all the subtle details you need to discover what the idea of the curio was, the historical development concept, insights from the artist, all this kind of stuff. So if you're watching that while I'm talking to you here, that would really help for context, or you can watch it back later and enjoy that discovery. So in alpha, the big two alternate art cards were really the Death Speaker, the Brahm alternate art Death Speaker, the Avatar, which was originally done in the core set by Tony Sudlow. The alternate art was done by Gerald Brom, and that was really interesting because it was a different artist. It was not in the core set at all. If you look at the box toppers for all the core sets, it always included a card that had all of the artists listed. And actually, there was not an artist credit to Brom for the purity of this idea that curio cards are not a real acknowledged thing. You can't find it on the official Sorcery website. You can't find it in a listing on their official forums at all. So they couldn't put Brahm on the art card, the artist card, because that would be acknowledgement that that exists as a curio. So pretty interesting being a purist to that philosophy. And then there was also the alternate art for the Death Dealer, which was really iconic because it was by iconic legendary artist Frank Frazetta, who really is like the godfather of the fantasy art scene, really paved the way for fantasy art, especially in gaming and that kind of context. Um, so it's really interesting. Um, in that set, you also had several categories. We had our first sketch card with the Eric's Curiosa sketch card. You had the meme curio categories, which was the trolls, and on the back of that, it said an Eric's Curiosa curio game instead of Curiosa. Um, Eric's Curiosa game. So there was, these categories that were prevalent also in beta. In beta, there were the sketch cards of the elemental avatars. There were more meme cards, kind of throwbacks to early mistakes that were made in alpha, even some goofy stuff, and then some like true historical stuff in beta, where you had the card like the Black Obelisk with the omnipotence reference, and you can go to my website and find out the significance of what that meant to the creator and co-creator of the game, and the video clip I even linked there. You can go and hear them talking about that. So really fascinating. And then in Arthurian Legends, similar type things. We had the Squires as the meme category. We had some interesting cards with alternate arts and tweaks on artistic concepts and stuff like that. So it's pretty broad and diverse, but the same kind of subsets of curio types, right? So now as we get to Gothic, we're seeing a lot more of the same of that. One thing I want to point out in beta is there was this kind of cat and mouse or kind of coy little joking around that the team was doing. The Eric's Curiosa, the company employees were saying that, there's one less card in beta than there was in alpha. And everyone was saying like, oh, it's got to be Eric's Curiosa, the Eric's Curiosa card, because you had to rip it up in alpha. So it was fitting. A lot of people thought that wouldn't be the card in beta. So what they did is that card was not in the core set, but there is a curio variant of it as a beta curio. So now when we get to Gothic, you wonder, how do they proliferate the idea of Eric's Curiosa? The sketch card from alpha, the curio version in beta, and now in the Gothic set we have the Dapperville Manor, that has Eric's Curiosa printed on the card. So I think that was really cool, a really creative idea, flavorful idea to continue the legacy of a card that is a homage to the namesake of the company, right there printed on the card. So that's really awesome. We got our first meme card with the gift of the frog with the bow tie. I talked to Pedro about that recently, and he said that Eric wanted a ribbon put on the frog, the gift of the frog. That's the idea of a gift, right? A gift offering of sorts. And so he had a painting with it without it, and then through the development, he added that on. He actually painted that on. So that's a fun little insight that I'm breaking news on for the first time. And in my articles, you'll find that I'm reaching out to the artist and I'm really getting the deep dive details on the historical meaning of these curios. The other one, Desecrate, again, Pedro Ferreira, really cool. Got another curio card. That one is a homage to MTG's Unholy Strength. So in the earlier revised version in the earlier sets, they had the pentagram in the background of that card behind the guy. And then in fourth edition, with all the satanic panic outrage and Christianity striking back, like this is satanic devil stuff, I got to get this out of the game. Watsy kind of buckled and they removed that pentagram from the background. So here now in the Gothic set, we have Pedro's version with the pentagram in there as the guy's being sacrificed over the altar, and then in the Curio version, that pentagram is removed. So it's kind of the way it's up to you how you want to look at it, whether it's a jab or a homage at Magic. It's kind of fun and interesting, and there's a lot of beautiful homages in Gothic. Again, a topic for another day about all the references to the great games of the '90s that are pervasive through all of the Sorcery sets. But here we are. We have the Dapperville Manor. That's kind of the Eric's Curiosa kind of nod Curio, as I see it. Then you have alternate arts in the Gossamer Ghost. You have the alternate art of the Fallen Angel with Scott Kirshner. And now this is interesting because the alternate art is a new artist. It's also prevalent in the core set, Scott Kirshner. In Alpha, if you recall, the the homage card was to Frank Frazetta, the legendary artist, who obviously is passed and isn't doing new work, and also Gerald Brom, who is not in the core set. So, will we see an iconic homage to a legendary artist? Have we seen that yet? We haven't. We have Quentin Hoover again, who was also paid tribute to in Arthurian Legends, but we don't have a new legendary artist that the company has paid homage to in Gothic yet. So that might be one that is yet to surface, and perhaps it is more rare than the other curios, and maybe that's why we haven't discovered it yet. But we have a lot of the similar themes, right? And I that's why I believe there is more to come. One thing while we're on this topic, we were talking a bit about the Gilded Knights and how there isn't that subset category in Gothic so far as we know so far. And being 4 days in with a bunch of people opening product, it stands to reason that perhaps they didn't do that. So I have to believe that maybe they did that as a curio concept yet to be discovered for maybe a card or two, and maybe it's more short printed than some of these other curios, and that's why we haven't seen it yet. But I always love that idea. I was really hoping there would be a subset, a broader subset like the Gilded Knights, that maybe leverage one of the great artists of sorcery doing a special subset, or a licensed homage to like Keith Parkinson. And by the way, check my article about Keith Parkinson. I think that has a lot to do with Dapperville Manor. I've chicken and egg type thing. I've either guessed a lot of the curios correctly, or I've run my mouth enough across my social media forums, and maybe Eric and the team has adopted some of my ideas. I don't know. They don't talk about curios, so we'll never know. So I get to decide on that one, and the community will decide, I guess, for yourselves. But some interesting references, and that's where I think we're at with Gothic. I don't think there's only 7. I think we'll find more, perhaps by the time you watch this video in a few months, few days, even few years. Well, there'll be many more, and we'll laugh about this, and we'll see what I got right and I got wrong. But please check out the Collector Art House website. Check out my videos and the deep dives I've done about the curios and all the other rich content across the website and the channel here. A lot of it's buried in the live, so I got to kind of reinvoke that and maybe cut some things to be more discoverable for you guys. But have fun opening Gothic. Please tag me in the Sorcery Community Facebook group and the Collector Art House Discord, or the main Discord, if you discover a new curio. And please comment in the comments. Let me know what is your favorite curio, and let me know if you find some new ones. And we'll see if I'm right or wrong. But a lot more fun discovery ahead. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Take care.